Happy rise and decline to all who celebrate. Here are the top stories for the day, Thursday, April 9th, 2026. In multipolar rise news, Iran conditions peace talks on Lebanon's ceasefire after massive Israeli attack. Iran's Revolutionary Guard distrusts U.S. promises and remains ready to confront any new mistake by the enemy. Hezbollah attacks Israeli positions, promising strikes until ceasefire. And Iran again halts traffic in the Hormuz Strait following Israeli ceasefire violation. In Empire in Decline news, at least 254 killed, over 1,100 wounded in massive Israeli attacks on Lebanon, Israel brands Operation Eternal Darkness. U.S. troops to remain positioned around Iran during the ceasefire, says Trump. Trump also threatens tariffs on countries supplying arms to Iran and claims having achieved regime change. Hundreds of Israeli soldiers left with traumatic brain injuries after taking part in Gaza genocide. These are today's top stories. Please subscribe at risedecline.substack.com. And if you're able, please support by being a paid subscriber to and or sharing the Rise and Decline report. That's right. Those were the top stories. How do you like that? Do you like that? That's right. Good. Wonderful. All right. We're doing okay today. How are you? Man, this coffee is sipping. You like that? Well, I like you. I like you. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Do you think it's a little overdone? Do you think I overcooked it a little bit with the music and the voice and everything? I think for some reason I like it. It's just absurd. But somehow you gotta like match the tone. Yeah, I do want to go hard in the paint. So there you go. And then you jump on my stream and there's lo-fi music. I'm very unsure of myself. All right. This was as of, 7:14 this morning. It says 97.8, 80. Right now it's 98.39. Roughly in the same ballpark. Yeah. Ooh, an R&D dad hat? Oh my god, we're already talking about merch. Okay, so to Lebanon. This most absurd story, we did touch on this yesterday, but this was after I dropped yesterday's Rise and Decline. We spoke about it yesterday, though. We're up to at least 254 killed, over 1,100 wounded in this obscenely massive Israeli attack on Lebanon. The ink was barely dry. On last night's 2-week ceasefire with Iran, when Israel began what was their largest scale attack on Lebanon since the war began, with IOF spokesman saying Israel carried out strikes on over 100 targets in 10 minutes. They killed 254 in 10 minutes. What does that remind you of? Used to do this kind of shit in gas chambers. Now they just do it from above. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz. You know, sometimes how I try to do a good job in my Rise and Decline report of... See, I fucked up right there. Sometimes I put these little apostrophes around Israel. You know, so as not to respect Israel. But sometimes I accidentally catch this guy whose name is Israel Katz. Once or twice I've accidentally put apostrophes around that name. I mean, come on. Any full-grown adult with the name Israel at this point, you could change it. All right. They said they're attacking Hezbollah, but of course they're full of shit. They're killing a whole ton of civilians. This is insane. They attacked a funeral. Killed at least 10 and 3 girls in a coastal town, reportedly slain in another strike. It's insane, dude. They are ethnically cleansing Lebanon. It's not too late. Except for Israel Kawakawakalagmeini. I don't know the guy's name. Because he's dead. Alright. What else do we want to say about this here? This is real fucked. This is really terrible fucking news. You know, like how people have a bad day when they have a bad hair day or something? This is when I have a bad day. This shit fucks me up. So, of course, Israel insists Lebanon's not included in the ceasefire. It's not true. It was. So, therefore, the U.S. and their allies are violating the ceasefire. Vance dismissed the massacre, suggesting there was never any intention of including Lebanon in the deal. Oh, who cares? Let him massacre all these people, he says. What a freak. What? He said the deal... He said also, he claimed that Israel had agreed to frankly check itself a little bit in Lebanon. That is the opposite of what happened. He was engaging in ethnic cleansing, and you're like, it just needs to check itself a little bit. They're engaging in ethnic cleansing. This is truly horrific. So to me, this says, oh, Israel's like, okay, well, we can sort of focus our fire over here. And they know they'll get away with it. No one's going to stop them. Except Hezbollah. Except Hezbollah. Here's a picture of the fucking cemetery they bombed. They bombed a cemetery. A funeral in Lebanon at a cemetery. You fucking believe this? Get out of here, man. They, Empire, U.S., Israel. What do you want? Israeli proverb. We fire and you cease to exist. Spain and France condemned the Israeli attacks against Lebanon. Leaders of both countries calling for the ceasefire to include Lebanon. And of course, Iran's going to halt traffic in the Hormuz Strait. It's the whole fucking deal. You want us to open the strait, but you're not going to abide by the ceasefire? We'll close the strait. Good for her. Iran halted all oil tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz following Israeli strikes on Lebanon, according to IRGC-linked Fars news agency. I'm going to be honest. If IRGC-linked Fars news agency tells me XYZ, and the New York Times and WAPO tells me ABC, I'm going to believe XYZ. XYZ, excuse me. What about you? What do you think, chat? The pause comes after a brief reopening earlier in the day when apparently only 2 oil tankers got through. The BYOB Hormuz party. Bring your own boat. They only let 2 through. Is that true? Only 2 oil tankers were allowed to pass with Iranian approval following the ceasefire. And then they closed it again. Iran's parliament speaker says U.S. violating 3 clauses of the ceasefire proposal. Ghalibaf said the 3 clauses the U.S. violated include 1. Non-compliance with the first clause of the 10-point proposal regarding the ceasefire in Lebanon. A commitment that Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif also explicitly referred to and declared as an immediate ceasefire everywhere, including Lebanon and other regions effective immediately. 2. the entry of an intruding drone into Iranian airspace, which was destroyed in the city of Lar in Fars province in clear violation of the clause prohibiting any further violation of Iranian airspace. 3. Denial of Iran's right to enrichment, which was included in the 6th clause of the framework. The White House claimed that Iran's initial 10-point proposal was thrown in the garbage. And that's what it's like to negotiate with empire. This is what it's like. These are the fucking demons you gotta deal with if you're Iran.
So let me be clear and correct the record.
Oh my
the
God.
Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious,
It was the basis for talks. And now you're saying it's fundamentally unserious. You fucking freaks.
unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage.
This is what it's like to deal with empire. It's absurd. Incredible. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. And then they just said they threw it in the garbage. Get the fuck out of here. Pick a fucking lane. God, if you're Iranian, you gotta be so fucking annoyed right now. Or if you just have a brain. If you have object permanence. If you have pattern recognition, you gotta be really mad right now. If you can read, if you have literacy, if you can read the room, you're pretty pissed right now. Iran conditions peace talks on Lebanon ceasefire. Of course. Iran today made its attendance at peace talks in Islamabad contingent on an immediate ceasefire in Lebanon. Another way to frame it, I've seen it framed as Iran will boycott talks if there's no ceasefire in Lebanon. They are warning of severe repercussions, including the potential closure of the Strait of Hormuz if Israeli aggression persists. You know, I like this account lately, Americanets. According to Iran, the ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. and Israel was contingent upon a ceasefire. Therefore, Iran can't break this ceasefire itself. If it was already broken by Israel. Therefore, it has every right to close down. Let me put it this way. Therefore, Iran has every right to exert its sovereignty over its waterways. And by extension, quote-unquote, shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Which is not what they're doing. They're exerting their sovereignty over their waterways. It's as if the U.S. it's as if Iran wanted to start sending ships down the Mississippi. Think about what would happen if China started sending their boats as close as the U.S. loves to send their boats to China. Think what would happen. So, of course, these demons are like, oh, they're breaking the ceasefire. Hezbollah is breaking the ceasefire. Iran's breaking the ceasefire. That's not what's happening. It's intentionally missing the forest for the trees. In the most malicious way. I do have to pause and stop and say, this coffee is really strong today. Who made it? I think I did. Sippy. Back to the Rise and Decline report. Rise and Decline report brought to you by Ace Hardware, your local Ace Hardware. You know what I realized? The Rise and Decline reports literally brought to you by Pink Spoon. So shout out to Pink Spoon. They actually are really cool, and they have helped me to gain access to Amazon to Adobe software, and yeah, and they also make cool stuff. Okay, so shout out. Reading on, Hezbollah attacks Israeli positions, promising strikes until ceasefire. They're retaliating against Israeli attacks after ceasefire breach, condemning massacres and vowing continued defense of Lebanon. Inshallah. Iran, where U.S. troops are allegedly to remain in the region during the ceasefire, says Trump and Hegseth. Trump warned Wednesday U.S. military assets would remain positioned in and around Iranian territory until the newly brokered ceasefire was fully implemented. Then he threatened any violation of the 2-week truce would trigger a significantly escalated military response. What the fuck is he talking about? Any violation. What about Israel? God. Report says Trump considers pulling troops out of NATO countries deemed unhelpful to Iran war effort. Well, let's go. My God, this guy hates NATO so much that it's leading to the decline of empire. Empire is the only reason the U.S. has power, and he just loves to dismantle it. He's a big dummy. He's considering a plan to punish NATO countries that would involve putting the troops into other NATO countries the president believes was helpful, including countries close to Russia. What does that mean? What countries is he referring to? Of course, he's mad at Spain. Germany? My God. Here we go again. It's not even like World War III. It's like World War II. It's sort of the same thing, even though Russia is not Soviet anymore. Okay. Trump threatens tariffs on countries supplying arms to Iran. He says any country supplying military weapons to Iran will immediately be tariffed on any and all goods sold to the United States of America 50%. No exclusions or exemptions. What the fuck is he talking about? And then he goes on and says, the U.S. will work closely with Iran, which we have determined has gone through what will be a very productive regime change. What? He goes, there will be no enrichment of uranium. That violates the ceasefire agreement. The U.S. will, working with Iran, dig up and remove all of the deeply buried B-2 bombers. B-2 bombers? Or are they talking about the uranium? Which absolutely gives credence to the theory about what happened with the alleged rescue of a pilot. The fuck is this guy smoking? Regime change? So Iran's Revolutionary Guard distrusts U.S. promises. This is what I was saying yesterday. They say in no way do we trust America, and yet they agreed to the ceasefire. So are they stupid? No, obviously they find it to be advantageous to them in some way. Obviously they know it's sort of advantageous for Empire to regroup as well, but they found it to be nonetheless advantageous enough for themselves to make the agreement. And that's that. Wednesday, the IRGC said it has no confidence in the promises of the U.S. I mean, already come on, of course you would have no confidence. They already broke the agreement. They said they threw the agreement in the trash. They warned it hold up. They said it had no confidence in the promises of the U.S., warned it would respond to any aggression that occurs during the ceasefire agreed upon last night. Okay, Iranian military officials remain ready, under the orders of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khamenei, to confront any new mistakes by the enemy. IRGC sent a message to West Asian countries hosting U.S. bases. And then there were mass rallies and interfaith ceremonies commemorating Sayyid Khamenei. Huge demonstrations, large demonstrations, swept across Iranian cities following the announcement of a ceasefire between Iran and the U.S., with citizens taken to the streets to celebrate the victory after Washington accepted Tehran's condition for a ceasefire, taking it to the streets. Parallel to the celebrations, Iran witnessed widespread commemorations marking the 40th day since the martyrdom of Khamenei, who was killed on the first day of the U.S.-Israeli aggression against Iran. In Palestine, hundreds of Israeli soldiers left with traumatic brain injuries after taking part in Gaza genocide. Let's go. 400, they say, have been diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries. Some estimates saying the true number could be 24,000. Majority of the cases, or 94, linked to blasts from improvised explosives, aka Hamas. So when you're crying about Hamas, and they're the only people, people use Hamas, they don't realize they're using shorthand for all these different groups, including Hamas, that are engaging in armed resistance. And they're doing it in concert with each other. So that's what's happening when you say Hamas. So Hamas and all these other groups are actually doing armed resistance. And a lot of you guys are just lumping them all together and saying, oh, they're all terrorists. Get a fucking life. You fucking demon. And here they are, resisting, giving Israeli fucking demons brain injuries. Fucking good for them. Liberals hate good things and they love bad things. I've always had this theory. This fucking rips. You should be handing it to Hamas. Instead, a lot of you are crying about them. Demons. You wouldn't know a good thing if it fucking hit you in the face. Write that down. Alright, so it's insane, man. So these guys, these IOF soldiers, these baby killers, these rapists are being left with brain injuries. They're being zombified. They were already zombies, but now they're extra zombified. Now they have memory loss, headaches, personality changes, and sleep disturbances, often that overlap with post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh no. One mother, check this out, I love this. One mother described her son returning from the conflict a different child. A child. Not too young to go and commit genocide, but too young to have a traumatic brain injury from the people you're genociding. A child. And of course, there's a growing crisis of hidden and undiagnosed traumatic brain injuries among Israeli soldiers, inshallah. Yeah, that's not even true. That's not really a real talking point. There's actually really important Rafat al-Arir threads on Twitter countering these very talking points. And then we have an Israeli attack killing an Al Jazeera journalist in Gaza. Mohammed Wisha, correspondent for Al Jazeera Mubashir, hit by an Iranian drone strike while driving his car. The IOFs killed 260 Palestinian journalists and wounded 550 since October 7th. They want you to think they're the good guys. And, of course, the Palestinian president says the ceasefire should include Palestinian and Lebanese territories. To the Asia Pacific, where the DPRK unveils cluster warhead missile electronic warfare capability. You love to see it. DPRK unveiled a new cluster warhead missile and electronic warfare systems, advancing asymmetric military capabilities. They carried out multiple tests, demonstrating Pyongyang's preparedness for modern warfare, included a tactical ballistic missile equipped with a cluster bomb warhead, electromagnetic weapon system, carbon fiber bombs, and a mobile short-range anti-aircraft missile system. You love to see it. The Chinese foreign minister did visit the DPRK to advance ties. A 2-day visit.
It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly.
I'm not sure that's... Looks like they're going to hang out for a couple days. China and the DPRK are traditional friends, neighbors connected by mountains and rivers. Love that. It's an unswerving strategic policy of the Communist Party of China and the Chinese government to maintain, consolidate, and develop China-DPRK relations. Against a complex regional and international backdrop, China and the DPRK need to step up communication and cooperation on issues of common concern, coordinate positions more closely in multilateral affairs, and contribute to regional peace and security. I think we all agree. To Europe, where Europe's bracing for extended energy disruption due to Hormuz closure and repeatedly shooting itself in the foot. Fucking idiots. Rather, these leaders are demonic freaks selling out their populations, selling out their people for empire. Feel bad, obviously, for the regular working class people who their fucking energy prices are going up just because pedophiles and genocidaires want to wage war on Ukraine and Gaza and Iran and Lebanon and Yemen all simultaneously. They want to do it all the time. Venezuela, don't let me forget that. They want to wage war on the entire world, whether it's explicitly or implicitly, whether it's with bombs or with banks. Oh, come on, I fucked that up. With tanks or with banks. It's all violence. And it's all connected. I no longer differentiate the bomb, the U.S. bomb that lands on a child in Gaza, from the U.S. boot that murders a guy over an alleged fake $20 bill. I don't differentiate, and neither should you. If you, consistently stand with the right people, you start to make the connection. Who are the right people, Dan? Well, the people who are vulnerable. To the Americas, to Venezuela, Shell moves to expand Venezuelan natural gas operations. Okay, so this is violence, right? This is West's violence. This is what they do. They're doing it via exploitation of another sovereign nation's natural resources. A London-based oil and gas giant seeking rights to exploit 4 major fields in Venezuelan waters near the maritime border with Trinidad and Tobago. Honestly. I'm thinking what happened in Venezuela was perhaps more of a coup than some of us were willing to admit. But, this stuff was happening before, so let's try to not jump to conclusions here. I'm not the understander. Energy giant Shell is eyeing largely untapped Venezuelan offshore reserves and taking advantage of Trinidad and Tobago infrastructure. So the argument stands, they're not exploiting Venezuelan waters. They're exploiting Trinidad and Tobago waters? Is that the argument? What is it? It doesn't matter what the argument is. They want the oil, and they'll make any argument. They'll do anything. To Turtle Island, Democratic congressman denounced poor conditions and mistreatment of detained migrant children. Over 6,200 children have been confined, aka concentrated, in U.S. immigration detention centers over the past 12 months. Democratic congressman noted Wednesday following a visit to a family detention facility, concentration camp, in Dilley, Texas. Congressman Joaquin Castro and Greg Casar toured the Dilley facility, which currently houses 400 individuals, including 49 families, some of whom have been detained for more than a year. More than a year. According to data from the advocacy organizations FWD, the center's population includes 77 minors and 244 adult women. That's just one of many. One of many. How many are these? I think hundreds? I don't know. Damn it. Nearly 60% of U.S. citizens now view Israel unfavorably after war on Iran. Listen, I can excuse genocide, but I draw the line at attempted genocide. What is that? What are these people change? Why are they changing their minds? A new Pew Research Center survey released on the 7th, 2 days ago, shows rising negative sentiment among U.S. citizens towards Israel and its Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, with majorities now expressing unfavorable views and declining confidence in leadership. 6 in 10 report an unfavorable view of Israel, up from 53% last year. So there were 7% of people who were like, well, the genocide in Gaza, yeah, not my favorite, but I still view them favorably? 7% of them? What happened? While the number of those holding a very unfavorable view also surged, of course, nearly tripling since 2022. Love to hear it. All right, and on this day in history, the Bolivian National Revolution begins. 1952, aka the Revolution of 52, a series of political demonstrations led by the Revolutionary Nationalist Movement, or the MNR, which, in alliance with the liberals and the communists, sought to overthrow the ruling Bolivian oligarchy and implement a new socio-economic model in Bolivia. Its main leaders, this is Wikipedia's framing, so if you hate this, you can please chime in and help me improve upon my framing, because I'll get to it, but we do have some corrections from yesterday. So its main leaders were the former presidents Victor Paz Estensoro and Hernan Siles Suazo. I'm probably butchering it, I'm sorry. The MNR government after this revolution lasted from the 9th of April, 1952, that's this date, until the coup. I literally said that without even thinking. Until the coup of the 4th of November, 1964. In these 12 years, there was a co-government and at the same time a power struggle between the party and the labor unions. Revolution of 1952 sought to implement the rights to vote in Bolivia, the distribution of land and state control over natural resources in the Bolivian economy. In addition, it incorporated the peasant and female sector into political life by establishing universal suffrage. It was a political revolution that at the time was equated to the Mexican Revolution, and that preceded the Cuban Revolution. Was developed in the context of the Cold War, was the only one of the social revolutions in Latin America that had the support of the United States. I'm not I'm not saying, hey, this is a good thing. I'm just teaching you about a little bit of history here. That's all that's happening. And I'd like to learn more about it. I do want to make some corrections on yesterday's On This Day in History. I misinformed you. I told you that Jomo Kenyatta led the Mau Mau movement against the British colonialists. It appeared he did not lead the movement, but that was what was alleged by Kenyan authorities when he was arrested and convicted. Fundamentally, he was unrelated to the Mau Mau, despite having agitated against colonialism and for freedom. Thank you to this nice Twitter person for the correction. That's today's Rise and Decline report. All right. Any thoughts? Anyone on YouTube watching? One? Couple people here on Twitch. Any thoughts? Regarding anything? Regarding the news or the report itself? How are you? How are you doing? Oh, man. Thank God I got paid tonight. Fucking broke. Tired of this money thing. You've been enjoying the reports. Are you still putting them on YouTube? Yeah. Well, not the long form ones. I go back and forth, to be honest. Because, to be honest, I'm not convinced that I want to do these long form ones every day. I go through the effort of just writing it and putting it out there. Maybe one day, if I get enough support, I'll be able to dedicate this much time. But there are other things that I want to be doing, and I honestly should be doing those things instead of reading this all out loud to you. You can read. You all know how to read. That's why I put it together. And if you're too lazy to read, I put together a little, a 2-minute readout of the top stories. I put together a little graphic for you to read. Try to condense it, Man, this coffee's strong. I'm like zooming. What's happening right now? Look at these analytics. Look at this analytics. Look at these numbers. Look at the shorts. This is incredible. One day I had 767 views on my short for the day. The next day I had 13. What? What's going on here? Don't make sense. I appreciate the support. Thank you, friend. It's hard, man. Then you have to internalize all the emotional damage that comes from just reading the news. I'm turning into the Joker. But I do post it on Obviously, Substack. I post the video on Twitter. I post the video on Instagram. I post it on TikTok and Blue Sky and Threads and my YouTube and Patreon. And it also becomes, if you have Spotify, if you have Apple Music, it also becomes a little podcast. So you could subscribe now to my podcast. It's Rise Decline. See if I could find it here. Sportify. See if I could find it by searching. It's right there. You couldn't see it on YouTube, so I'm wondering if you're shadow banned. It's actually just through my own channel. Yeah. It's just through iDan Simpson currently. There's no channel separate from that currently. Yeah. Maybe I'll change the branding here someday. And I may change it on here on Twitch. I feel like I want to give folks a little transition time mentally. Okay. All right, let's go below the fold. If you hit videos, are all of the R&D on there? No, because videos is the long form stuff. And these are only, sort of like what I just did when I read through the whole thing. The shorts are the little videos that I make every day. For instance, I didn't upload yesterday's long form reading. Yeah, shorts. Sharts. Shartify. Sharts. Again, this is the same video I post to my Instagrams. Rise Decline. As well as just, my own. Hold up. What happened there? What's going on? The fuck did I press? How long was it tripping out? You could also just find it on my regular Instagram. What? Can you? Yeah, that's from today. Again, I try to post it everywhere. I post it everywhere. Because, why not? Alright, let's go on. I was going to do this. You know what struck me? It'll never be lost on me that folks who hate the Soviet Union for engaging in normal-ass trade leading up to World War II have more heat for Iran giving Russia Shahed drone tech than Empire giving Israel bombs to do ethnic cleansing and genocide. In their tiny brains, these are like 1-to-1. And they cancel each other out. Isn't that nuts? I just thought of that. Maybe we could read this. I got a lot of time today. I do have to go to work later, but... Oh, let's talk about this. It did. Thank you, friend. I was trying to be vague when I said thank you for the support or something. Thank you, friend. Love your face, dog. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Honestly, every little bit helps these days. So here's what happened. He fired General George, COS of the Army. What the fuck's COS? Oh, you're good, dog. It's okay. Alongside the Chief of Chaplain and the Chief of Transportation, Transformation and training right before this failed operation. This operation to allegedly save the downed pilot. No, I don't believe that at all. I think the pilot was dead or captured. He likely fired them. This is analysis from Based Meth Addict. He likely fired them because they strongly objected to the operation. This was actually my theory, right? He was like, all right, they got to find someone to agree to this. And to prevent the chief of chaplains from processing the massive glut of conscientious objector and religious exemption forms that have come in. See, I didn't know about that. But it tracks, right? In my opinion, this is what happened. In the opinion of Based Meth Addict, Hegseth pushes for this raid. Raid for what? Raid for uranium, right? That's what this was. This wasn't a rescue operation, you guys. Anytime Empire moves their lips, you have to assume they're lying to you. You've got every reason to believe that at this point. So he pushes for the raid. The generals object. He goes to Trump, convinces him to do it, and gives him permission to fire the generals. Both Trump and Hegseth are still high from the success of Venezuela. Which, again, I think maybe perhaps was more of a successful regime change than I wanted to initially admit to myself. And they believe that this operation will provide justification to public and the troops for a ground invasion of Iran. Fucking idiots. It was likely that, if successful, they'd tell the public of the raid on Easter morning, which would give a boost to the MAGA base and something for MSM to use to justify ground invasion. However, it was a massive disaster, total defeat. So they use the missing pilot, who was likely rescued, they say. I think they're dead, or I honestly think it's more likely they died. The likely rescued on the second or third as a cover story for the failed raid. This redo of Operation Eagle Claw likely spooked Trump, who wants market stability, but more importantly, it likely spooked the rest of the administration. For the first time in forever, the DoD, State Department, and even the CIA are aligned together against this war. Now that is a wild theory, right? Right? You'd think so. It also comes to light that Hegseth has been pressuring the Secretary of the Army to resign, which he refused to do. These failings and purgings have likely emboldened the Iranians to push for their maximalist demands. The part of the administration that is not loyal to Trump, and there's more of them than most realize, saw this and likely decided something has to be done, especially in light of Trump's insane threats. I believe there's real possibility that the secretaries of the Army, Navy, Air Force, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, with support from CIA, State Departments, threatened a soft coup if Trump didn't accept the Iranian proposals. Huh. What do you think? Now, will there be a ceasefire? If the Israelis have anything to say about it, no. There's a high chance the Americans and Israelis will break the ceasefire within days. It took minutes. Trump will be pressured by Netanyahu, Woodcuff, blah, blah, blah. Loomer. All right. Some thoughts. The ruler is beefing with the Pope. His legions have fought to a stalemate with Persia. Now typhus is breaking out in a major city. Oh yeah, it's late antiquity out there. I'm having a good time. What are the Democrats worried about? Hassan Piker. Oh my God. What are the Democrats worried about? Trump's deal with Iran sounding terrible. They get complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. All sanctions removed. Keep their uranium and keep their missiles? What the hell was the point of the war then? This is a guy who's a Democrat. A little demon. Democrats are the moderate wing of what am I trying to say? Like a like neoconservatism. All right. I think that's it. Check this out.
Pro-life? Do you think Pete Hegseth is pro-life?
Yes. Yeah.
He bombed a school with 160 Iranian children. All right, there you have it. Do you think Pete Hegseth is pro-life?
Yeah. That's how it goes. Genuinely perfect representation of the American mind. If you ignore the atrocities committed by your leaders, they just don't exist. And Republicans do this and Democrats do it too. I did think it was wild that the Iranian artillery paid homage to the revolutionary Mau Mau resistance the day that Jomo Kenyatta was sentenced for allegedly having led the Mau Mau movement, which he didn't. Huh. I wonder what happened there. Hegseth on the buried enriched uranium.
Handing over of all of their enriched uranium, and they're promising not to enrich any future uranium, a non-negotiable for the U.S.
Well, it's always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried and we're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity. But what's clear, what the new Iranian regime knows, is they'll never have a nuclear weapon or the.
With Iran is their handing over of all of their enriched uranium, and they're promising not to enrich any future uranium, a non-negotiable